I'm here with Chris Taylor from Guest Powered Games. Hello, Chris.
How's it going?
That's going very well, thank you. That's actually my first question to you, really. There's 2 weeks to go on the Wildman campaign. You've just hit $400,000. At this point, right now, how do you feel? How do you feel it's going?
I think it's going, you got to look at it two ways. If you're a pessimist, it's going terribly. If you're an optimist, it's going great. And I know that doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but if you think about it, really, and you're optimistic, which we are, okay? So to answer the question, which side are we on? We're very optimistic. Um, we think we've got a real solid foundation there. Getting over 400,000. We know a lot's going to happen in the next 2 weeks. We've got a lot of material that we're creating that's going to be released while I'm doing press tours. I've got two press trips planned. So we're going to be simultaneously releasing a ton more of the video updates. We think the video updates are a really great way to spread the word, and simultaneously doing press interviews to get the word out to more folks, and very optimistically driving forward to the goal line.
Yeah, you mentioned that you've been pushing out a lot of update videos recently, and I know they've been doing a lot for the campaign. Kind of really digging into the game and the mechanics of it. Do you think that the slightly slow start that you had was down to kind of a lack of that clarity?
Yeah, I mean, I think the first video that we released did a poor job of explaining the game details. We looked at what a lot of the other Kickstarter videos did, and some of them created a lot of no, sorry, they were very detailed because they maybe had a movie, or others that weren't detailed but were nostalgic games that were going to be, another game like the one you loved in 10 or 20 years ago.
Mm.
So we sort of fell in the crack of that. Even though we have a playable prototype of the game up and running, we've got a lot of stuff to back up the campaign. We didn't have it in the main video. So of course that's the first, your first impression. So we sort of got off the starting blocks poorly. Of course, I mean, like anything in life, if you do it if you get experience and you can take your experiences and apply it, I mean, that's what, it doesn't matter what you do. If you're going to do something one time and one time only, and you have to accept the fact that if you screw it up, it's it's not a good thing. But if you do it again, if we were to do another Kickstarter, like literally, in 2 weeks, if this one doesn't go through, we would fix all of the stuff that we screwed up. So we really do take a lot. We do take the blame. I mean, we cannot take some of the blame. We have to take all of the blame for really not doing not putting together a really comprehensive video on the way the game is going to play.
Was that kind of a hint there that if this Kickstarter doesn't go through, that you'd be launching another one essentially? If
Um,
this
it
one's not its goal, or
it kind of sounded like a hint, but it wasn't. It was pure like, I don't care what you're doing, right? Like, I don't care if you're trying to I don't know, like, do like anything you do. If you fail at it and you do it
Hmm.
again, you're going to do better. You keep doing the same thing over and over and over again until you master it.
Hmm.
You get back on the horse. But if you're at the rodeo and the bull throws you off and the clowns rescue you, you don't go back on the bull. You go to hospital for 2 weeks, right? And then when your vertebrae, the bruising goes down and you recover, you think, I think maybe next year's rodeo, I might try it again with the lessons learned. But you don't get you don't chase the clowns away and get back on the bull right away. You have to recover from it. We'll have a very difficult situation to manage through, but I want to say that the phone has been ringing. People have been calling and asking us about Wildman. They're saying, hey, maybe there's a partnership here. I don't know the details. Those conversations are just getting started. Like, I mean, we haven't worked out any terms. It's just the phone has rang and I'm really busy and we're going to kind of see how it goes. But let's say,
Okay.
for example, the campaign doesn't go through and someone says, well, how about if we kick in $500,000 and you give us rights to territories X, Y, and Z? And then someone else comes along and we give them territories to, give them rights to another territory. Like, maybe we can do this a different way, and then maybe we can just go and do some fundraising right off our site, which you can actually do right now. I think we've raised a grand total of $1,000 because we direct people to the Kickstarter site. We don't want to raise the money to our site per se, unless you don't have access to Kickstarter. So this is a real subtle point, right? In case you cannot get access, you can still give to our site. Now, if the thing it doesn't go through, we're going to refund those folks. They won't be paying anything. Just to make that little quick digression. But maybe there's another way we can make Wildman, but that does not mean going right back to Kickstarter like instantly. Maybe we can do it a different way if we can get funds to bridge the company. So anything's possible.
Okay, there aren't any specifics then you can give on that about who's been approaching you or anything like that? Is that all too early to really be talking about?
If I've been able to articulate anything to folks, that when you have a corporation or when you have large businesses that are knocking on your door talking to you about potential partnerships, the first things you sign are an NDA.
Right.
It's, and that's why the exciting thing about Wildman in its first in its first hack at it here was we were going to be able to run a project very open and very honestly and provide people an unprecedented level of visibility into the process. But if the Wildman project, of course, does not fund, then we're going back to essentially a more secretive and quiet model, and folks won't have that look into the process. And that part is actually kind of sad. But it is the way business in America and all over the world is done all the time. I mean, we don't know what Apple's iPod 6, or pardon me, iPhone 6 looks like. We don't know what the next iPad looks like. We don't know how much memory the next MacBook Pro will ship with. I mean, everybody is secretive. I mean, that's the thing. But this is like a chance for people to fund something with their own dough and then make it a highly transparent process. And I was really excited about that. And I still am, but now my excitement is measured, so that I'm not crushed as a human when and if it doesn't, depending on how it goes, because I mean, I get very, very excited about things, and this is a terrible flaw. I have a saying. I'm sorry to go off, but I have a saying that there is no place for emotion in business. If you truly want to be a great business person, then keep the emotions out. Well, as you know about me probably by now, is I'm like a nuclear bomb of emotion. That's how I run the business. And that's why I think the creative is heavily part of the process. I can't be a robot and be creative and not allow myself to be emotional. They go together. So that's the way it is. I guess that's who I am, and I accept that.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like you've been really kind of reveling in the Kickstarter model with the transparency and being able to kind of quickly respond to questions from backers. And I mean, is that what we're going to be seeing in the future in the next couple of weeks? Are we going to be seeing more questions answered, more demonstrations of I don't know, the game in motion or the modding tools again, things like that?
What we're planning on doing is we're going to go in depth and talk to a lot more of the members of the team. I'm sick of looking at my face on the video updates. I mean, if I look like, I don't know, some sexy Hollywood guy, I would say that would be a great idea. But because I especially on Skype, I mean, my God, I look like a giant pink blob. It's awful. Who's my manager?
It's not that bad, Chris. It's not that bad.
Oh, look at this. Woo, go UK.
Oh, nice. Nice.
You like that? You like
that?
That wasn't even planned. That wasn't even planned. I know you guys are both. Are you both born in UK?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. They don't know that there's a sound engineer working, so he's also in the UK as we speak. So you're getting a call out. You're getting outed. Paul. Sorry, but the what was I even talking about? I don't even remember now.
You were you were talking about the transparency and the openness and being able to talk to people through Kickstarter and all that
Oh,
good
that's right.
stuff.
Oh
I
yes,
actually
we're sick of
I
my
did,
face.
yeah, right. So you're gonna chat to the team instead.
That's right. And what we're going to do is we're going to show more of the tools. I want to do a more comprehensive walkthrough on Project Mercury, and I'm going to be talking about the architecture philosophy more. And these videos are by their nature they tend to be kept short because we're told by no one, but we think that the universe is speaking to us and telling us that we must keep videos short. If we have long videos, the something bad and terrible will happen. So we're going to make some videos that are long, and at risk of boring people, we're going to go into greater depth, and we're going to do a bunch of those. So while I'm traveling and doing press, we can keep releasing videos and keep the energy up. I mean, it's a very simple idea, but it's required and necessary, and so that's what we're going to be working on most of this weekend.
No, actually, I just watched the modding the Project Mercury video a couple of hours ago, which looked pretty fascinating actually. But it did kind of bamboozle me a little bit with the whole kind of infinite desktop aspect of it. I mean, what you seemed essentially to be saying in that was that with the modding tools and with that, you'll be able to change pretty much any aspect of the game essentially. And you're also mentioning that you'd be able to mod other games with it too. I don't know if might have time to explain that in depth, but can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, from what you're saying, you were definitely bamboozled.
I'm not technically minded enough for this.
Well, okay, so translation. It wasn't my intention to baffle you with bullshit. That's actually a saying my dad has. He says, if you can't dazzle them with brilliance, baffle them with bullshit. But isn't he? He's wise. He's really wise. Um, but the truth is what I was showing was the ability to create terrain through a tool,
Yeah.
visualize it in 3D. Eventually, here, obviously, putting on the terrain features or props, which is trees, rocks, things like that. Being able to place treasures, be able to place monster or enemy or opponent encounters. Essentially, laying out the game. Now, you can't then there's a facility for adjusting the health, the values of the game, and so on. It's really a fully moddable game. Really allows people to take all the existing assets, the expensive assets, the monsters or and the sound effects and the textures, and those are things that are kind of beyond the average modder. I mean, I want to be clear though. Some people are extremely talented and they can create those assets, but let's say the 90 percentile just likes to take existing assets and they get to mix them all up and they get to create a new game. And that's the idea with the tools available on Project Mercury. However, what keeps people from writing tools for other games? What keeps them doing that? Nothing. It's just their own time and energy breaking apart the formats. You can take in Chrome, for example. I think you can do it in a couple of the other browsers, but I don't remember which ones. One of them, some of these this HTML5 technology is still maturing. Well, in Chrome, you can take, I'm going to use my finger here, so you can click on and drag a photo, and you can drag it over and release it into the Mercury desktop. And what that does is it then allows it to operate on that data, and it could send it up to the server. It could do this, it could do that. Well, the same thing goes that if you took a data file out of a game X, your favorite game, and you dragged that over and dropped it, you could then turn around and take that data apart, and you could operate on that data, presumably, and then through some mechanism export that and then put it back into the game. So it wouldn't be as seamless because in Wildman, it's all going to be integrated on the back end. But in some other game, there would be some other hoops to jump through. But there's all kinds of potential. 10 years from now, if someone digs up this interview and they look at it, they're going to go, Taylor had no idea, well, which would be wrong, that all of this was going to sweep through. Do you like that? I would be totally wrong because I guessed exactly right. That this is going to be a commonplace to use web browsers to very, very simple operate very quickly and efficiently on data sets that, you know, you're like, you got some format, right, for thing XYZ. You don't even, you know what, you just go onto the internet and you're going to find the thing that can read that format and just have all that integrated into the browser. And, you know, the old days of software like Debabbilizer, do you remember that? Debabbilizer
I have
was
no idea what Debabbilizer is. I'm sorry, but
no. This was a piece of software that would take any graphics format, if I'm remembering correctly, and could convert it into any other graphics format. How many times in the early days of computing where you had some format and you wanted to take some other format and you had to do, well, Debabbilizer, you could drive it all from a command line and you could batch process and you could just do anything you wanted. It became an instrumental tool for us in the 90s. Anyway, all of that debabbilization, if you will all happen. It was a great name, by the way, but it'll all happen in the browser seamlessly. We won't even know it. It'll be fantastic.
okay, cool. Well, man, that's a lot of technical detail. I'm kind of hoping people are getting that slightly more than I am, perhaps. But
Chop
do
it
you
out.
think? I'm not going to chop it out. This is all good stuff. But so are you going to do an update video? You know, you talked about doing longer update videos. So would you consider doing like a kind of hour-long presentation on that kind of material then to?
I think when I say long, I mean not 5 minutes, but probably closer to 15, maybe 20, not an hour. I don't think, you know what? I can't look at anything for an hour. I could hardly sit through The Hobbit. You know, wait a sec, that was pointless. 3 hours or whatever. You know what I mean?
But you
I
haven't
made,
even seen all of it. That was only part one.
oh yeah, exactly. So it's going to be a 9 hour movie, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding, of course. I'm kidding. But I actually really enjoyed it. I enjoyed, whatever. But the thing is that people probably sweet spot 10 to 20 minutes. Any more than that,
Mm.
I think you run the risk. You can always break it up into parts. If they can watch part 2, part 3, and if they want to keep going, they can keep going. I think that's fair.
Yeah, yeah. So tell me a little bit about the. I'm going off on a different tangent here, but a little bit about the sort of tech upgrades that you have in Wildman. I got the sense from the explanatory video about how that worked that I don't know. Does it follow a kind of semi-historical progression? Because you start sort of prehistoric era, and then maybe you know you were talking a little bit in one of the videos about maybe getting trebuchets and things later on. I'm wondering, does it kind of move through the Bronze Age into the Iron Age? I don't know. Is it that kind of progression with the technology tree?
Yeah, I mean, if you wanted to start at 0 AD, or I guess it's not even
Yeah,
really AD, that's at death.
yeah.
But
Something BC, I guess.
I don't really like speaking about someone's death as the start of a game. Um, it's terrible.
Wildman began with the death of Jesus Christ. Is that what you're going to
That
tell
is a
me?
that is a great way to alienate a whole lot of people. The truth is though is that you know there's it really the game. And if you look at history, right, it's recorded
Yeah.
history, right? Because we obviously before that we call it prehistory, prehistoric, meaning we don't know a whole lot about what happened except the stuff we can dig up out of the ground. And we know that there were people, and we know they were just like us, and they go back 200 to 250,000 years. Um, they didn't have culture, they didn't have religion, they had crude tools. They didn't have language. I mean, I'm assuming the very first guy that got the genetic mutation, guy or girl, who got the genetic mutation that was technically Homo sapien, right? Um, didn't have a whole lot going for him. He had an opposable thumb. He could smash
Yeah.
some stuff. So we get kind of a kick out of that. You know, that's kind of a fun idea. So we have to kind of compress those 200,000 years down to sort of be all the interesting bits, like the fact that I'm guessing in that period of time, a cub wolf was taken or found and raised, and then they were raised in captivity, and there we had man's best friend. You know, we had the we genetically selectively bred to get what we know as the dog. And you know, someone invented shoes that you could take something and strap it to your feet, and suddenly you could travel way further in harsh environments. You could travel in the winter. You could travel um, on hot clay. I mean, whatever, right? Like the shoe is an important invention. So in Wildman, you can get tech. You can get the shoe tech, right? So it really kind of makes it fun to find soap that makes you live longer, to find dried meats that allows you to heal in the field, to find to continue to do all these sort of prehistoric kind of inventions, and then takes us right up into recorded history, basically.
Yeah. So what's the kind of end point for the tech tree then? Does it what sort of era? I mean, I know it's sort of fantasy as well because you have some of these fantastical creatures, but technologically speaking, how far does it go?
Well, I think it wants to go till just before gunpowder.
Okay.
Gunpowder changes things. It accelerates. What it does is it actually creates a foreshortening of the battle. Like it actually makes a battlefield too small when you start using
Mm.
projectile weapons. And because it's an action RPG, we really want to keep projectile weapons kind of. Now, this is, you know, for the very first V10, and then what I think happens is you get this game rolling, and then you know you start adding content and solving, and maybe we pull the camera back. And we can
Mm.
kind of start using bigger and bigger weapons and so forth, and we get out here. But I can tell you now, the way the Kickstarter's going, if we get to 1.1 million, we're going to really have to focus our resources. And if we spread the production budget across too much history, we're going to have a crappy game because it's going to be too thin. We're going to need to focus. So I think we need to bring that time. I mean, we were talking laser, you know, we were pie in the skying lasers, and I think we have to bring that down now and be more realistic. And then say as the game is purchased, as it goes on sale, and more money's revenue is generated, we can start adding content to stretch the end out. I think that's a fair way to address it because, you know, quality is more important than quantity at this point.
Sure. We should probably make the last question, I guess, if you have to rush off. But so, I mean, initially I was under the completely wrong impression that it was kind of the game was going to be more RTS than action RPG, and also more multiplayer than single player. But it's actually the opposite, isn't it? It's pretty single player focused, if I'm right about that.
Yeah, and what that points out is how I did a poor job explaining it because that was not something um, we meant. We really tried to say this is an action RPG. We've still got to revise some of the copy that we have on the website. I think some of it's still kind of confusing. Um, and the thing is, it's an action RPG, but we really do believe the RTS component is a strong component. It's not a throwaway
Hmm.
component. It's not like a mini game inside of, you know, like on a loading screen of a first person shooter or something. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
actually a really strong component of the game, but it is like, if you're going to break it up into percentages, it's like 60% action RPG, 40% real time strategy. But in terms
Okay.
of play time, the RTS component might actually be like 90% of the playtime because real time strategy component, you spend a lot of time in one area looking at, like, playing in that one sandbox. So
Sure.
so this is what makes it wild because it's going to be really interesting to play with all of this, and that's why it's scary and risky, and it freaks people out. And they go, "No way, I'm not going to slap my $20 down. I'm freaked out." And I'm go, "It's the exact reason you should put your $20 down because you want to be freaked out. This is the cheapest freak out you're ever going to get, you know." And now a whole bunch of people are going to lower their pledges from like $45 down to 20. Go, yeah, I'm with you. You're right.
All right, Chris. I think that's about as good a summation of Wildman as is going to be possible. So, thank you very much for your time. And I'll echo what Paul said at the beginning. Best of luck with the campaign.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. Have a great day.
You too. Thanks very much.
Yeah.